I've been working with a few founders lately who are struggling with the problem slide of their pitch deck. This is something you've got to nail because the problem solution part of your pitch deck is 80% of the work, and investors need to see you get this so that they can decide whether they want to be part of your problem solution. We're going to start with the problem slide. You stay to the end of this. I'm going to show you the cheat code that I use when it comes to crafting problem statements that actually get you funded. Before we continue, my name is Ed Kang, 7-time funded founder with 2 X's. Just means I failed a bunch of times. That's for your benefit. I like to use videos like this and all my social media to help founders, especially early stage ones, avoid some of the catastrophic mistakes that I've made. Not to say you won't make mistakes, but I hope to minimize the damage and for you to have a little bit of an easier time because it's tough enough as it is. If you're joining me here from Stars.com or any other accelerator program, you're with me on social media, thank you so much for your support. It means a lot. Please do the social media thing. Like, comment, subscribe, share with other founders that you think this would be helpful for. Let's jump right in. The first thing I want you to look at is pitching the investor, not the customer. I see this happen so many times. A founder will use language that's geared more towards the customer and not the investor. Let me give you an example of this. Look at this statement. Dating apps are not working because they don't create a true in-person connection. It's fair. It's a problem. I actually researched this, but it also is geared more towards the user of the dating app and doesn't really speak as well to the investor. Let's look at the alternative. 54.2 million Gen Z are leaving dating apps because they prefer meeting people through in-person connections. Take a look at this. Look at the language between each one. The first one could be used to pitch users. I could be standing on a presentation. Let's say I'm giving a TED Talk to all potential people who want to use dating apps, especially Gen Z, and I say dating apps are not working because they don't create a true in-person connection. I think that would resonate well. I know it resonates well because I researched this. My research brought me to a more concise problem statement for investors. Looking at the size of the problem, 54.2 million Gen Z, because that's what investors like to see, are leaving dating apps because they prefer meeting people through in-person connections. Imagine the investor. They are not Gen Z. I'm not Gen Z. I don't use dating apps. I've been married for 22 years, and I am not going in looking for dating apps, so I can't resonate with this problem. But if you're pitching me, if you gave me information like this that provided a novel insight and educated me and made me go, I didn't realize that, you might get me even though I might not necessarily be a user of your solution. If I'm interested in the space, or I can clearly see with quantifiable data that there is a problem going on and this is a big market, could lead to an amazing solution. If you're that founder, well, then I might be interested. You don't want to leave that to chance, so make sure you use language that's better suited for investors than users. Next, you want to start with the problem, not the solution. One of the main reasons that founders fail, especially considering the thousands of founders that have come across my desk at startups.com and our online accelerator, so many founders have a solution looking for a problem. They might have started with a personal itch or something that they encountered, and they say, I can come up with a solution for that problem. And then they focus on the solution, not really researching the problem. And the issue is that the rest of the world may not see the problem the same way you see it, or they may not be as motivated to solve for it. Or even if you did have a solution for it, they might not be motivated to change their behavior because you haven't understood the problem enough for them to be motivated to change their behavior. You're going to create a new category, disrupt something that they're already using. That's not going to happen if you're a solution looking for a problem. The best founders start with the problem, research it, understand it inside out on the front lines. And it's the same way that we approach pitch decks. The trap that we fall into is we think about the solution. We say, I need to get to this solution, so I'm going to start with the solution and draft a problem and kind of back my way into the problem. It needs to be the other way around. That's the reason they call it problem solution fit. Starts with a problem, then gets to the solution. Let's say, for example, I've created the Fitbit for reptiles. My solution is to monitor health data and predict medical issues in lizards. This one hits close to home because my son's been raising leopard geckos for over a decade, and his first leopard gecko, one of the two that he got, seems like she's sick and maybe it's at the end of her life. How do we know? So we're thinking about going to a veterinarian and all that stuff. So I just decided to use this as an example. Back to imagining you've developed the Fitbit for reptiles. Where do you go from there? Is it pet owners? Do you want to solve the problem for pet owners? Is it for breeders? Maybe breeders need their Fitbits for their reptiles for better breeding, all that good stuff. Veterinarians, to help veterinarians analyze and give stuff for their clients and all that good stuff. It's a solution for veterinarians. Or is it for research facilities, people who need to conduct research using lizards? They need monitoring equipment to check the biosignals and gather all the data for their research. Which problem are you going to solve for? What you're looking for is what's called a beachhead problem. The beachhead that you are going to land and expand from. That's what investors need to see. What you want to do is look at all these categories and research the stuffing out of each one and then stack rank and say, this is the problem that I want to solve for. Because once you pick that problem, then everything else falls into place, especially your solution statement and your business model. Instead of going backwards and starting with a solution, dare I say a business model, and then trying to create a problem that somehow shoehorns it in, go research the problem as much as you can, and you are going to be better suited to create that problem statement that's going to ring very true. Then you can move on to the solution statement. If you don't do what I just shared here and you are trying to solve for all these problems because the solution fits each one, you could end up with a very unfocused problem statement. And that brings to my next piece of advice. Focus on the number one most important problem and put that into your problem slide. Let's look at an example of this here. 90% of startups fail because they run out of money, can't get their first customers, don't research competition, and are unable to reach product market fit. This is all true. I've researched it. You go look up CB Insights, and the reason these startups fail, those are all going to be there. The problem with this problem statement is that investors are going to look at it, and it's just so much to take in, and they're thinking to themselves, are you really going to solve for all those problems? It seems really diluted, it seems muddy, and you've created immediate friction upfront in your problem statement because you haven't identified and prioritized by first talking to investors, next researching the problem first instead of starting with the solution, and not focusing your problem statement. Let me give you the alternative. Out of the 135 million startups that will fail, 38% will do so because they ran out of funding. How did I get there? There are 150 million startups in the world at any given time. 90% are going to fail. These are statistics that are out there. So that's 135 million. And then I went to the same research, CB Insights, and it says 38% will do so because they ran out of funding. This problem statement checks all the boxes, shows the severity of the problem, gives terms investors understand, and I'm really focused. And even though my solution may solve for first customers, competitive research, all that stuff, I'm going to say the number one thing that we do, land and expand, our beachhead problem, is we solve for the issue of funding. And part of that might be we're going to get funding by selling more. We're going to get funding by differentiating from the competition. You could be doing all those things, but in this problem statement, I'm very clear, I'm very concise so that investors understand. And like I said, it's all about investor friction. If they have to work too hard or they start doubting or questioning, you're going to lose them. I want to sharpen the tip of that arrow and make this problem statement so exact that the investors go, yeah, I totally understand. I totally get it. I can see it. Or show me more. I understand the problem. This brings me to the real cheat code. I told you, stick to the end of the video. I'm going to tell you what I do to make sure my problem statements stick. And before I go there, I'm going to say a lot of founders don't like to hear my cheat code here for the very issue that they've already started building something and now they're a solution looking for a problem. My ultimate cheat code is I clarify the problem before making the solution, before laying down one line of code, before doing a prototype or a UX design or paying a single dollar to a developer. I research the problem like crazy because if I do that, I'm not encumbered. I'm not hindered by the investment trying to make a solution work that already exists out there. It's a blank slate. I look at the problem, I say, okay, if I was going to solve it, I might have an inkling of which direction I want to go because normally I'll see problem and this might be the solution, but I force myself to go through that exercise and I say, let me clarify the problem before I build the solution, before I do anything there. How will this affect you if you already have a solution? Maybe you're not so far down the development highway that you have the opportunity, the luxury of pivoting or iterating just a bit as you go back and do this exercise. Maybe you have to start from scratch. I've done that as well. I've completely wiped it and I've said, I'm going to start from scratch because I still believe in the problem and the solution may come in all different shapes and sizes. I'm not going to be pigeonholed into one and force myself to come up with a janky problem statement or completely whiff on pitching the investor because I am trying to be a solution looking for a problem. That's the real cheat code. Clarify the problem before making the solution. If you're at the ideation phase, you're going to love this piece of advice because now it gives you complete freedom to explore, dream, have some fun with it, and maybe you'll come up with something that's so unique that other people are going to want to invest in a heartbeat. The question then becomes, is there a perfect problem statement? In other words, is a perfect pitch deck possible? I think that we've seen ones come close. I'm going to link the video right here on the screen for you to check it out. I think that we came across virtually the perfect pitch deck, but watch that video because you will see a problem statement that I think ticks all the boxes, and I know for a fact that startup has been able to raise capital. Check it out. Thanks for hanging out with me. I will see you in the next video.